Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there, wherever you're listening in at. You know, we can listen on, you can see us on YouTube, which is a great one this week. You want to see us on YouTube, where you go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you want to listen in, and you'll find out what happens on Hawaii Boss. We go into the boss's office to try and find out the answers on some of the particularly challenging needs that are happening in Hawaii related to anything that's going on in Hawaii. There's lots of challenging things, lots of great things, but today we're going to the K.E.L.I.I Foundation, and I'm terrible at names pronunciation, but listen, Keiki Education Living Independent Institute, and the founder is here with us, Melodee Haole. Melodee, aloha and welcome.
Hello, aloha. Hi.
So good to have you. Now, listen, this foundation appears to be a work of your heart. Tell us a little bit about your foundation and how it came about.
Well, I started this foundation because, sorry, my granddaughter.
That's okay. She can come visit with us too. That's okay.
Okay. Hold on, Kiki. So how I started this nonprofit is because when my son was aging out of the DOE system, because he has violent behaviors, very violent behaviors, he's on the severe part of the spectrum.
Okay.
The Department of Education and during my IEP time, they told me that I had three choices. I could give my son up to the state, put him in a mental institution, or I could, I could quit work and start a nonprofit. So what I decided to do is quit work and start a nonprofit. Well, they didn't tell me I could start a nonprofit, but I decided that is what I was going to do. Because
take us back to that moment when, you know, you've already had the challenges of having to raise your, child. DOE, they're helpful, but there's always challenges, I'm sure, in and out while he was growing up. And I've heard of those IEPs. They're those, what are they called? The individual educational. Yeah, it's a plan for them, but and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But tell me at that point when you're saying he's aging out and they said you've got these two choices basically. How'd that do to you?
Really, three choices. They told me I could quit work at the end. So, well, I asked for a transitional meeting basically because I guess I should start from the beginning. My son was with a genetic disorder. We found out at 10 years old. Before that, he had a heart problem we knew of, and he was already in the special education system from 3 years old. When he became 16 years old, he had a vaccine injury. He had the hepatitis A and the meningococcal vaccine. And at that time, we didn't know what was happening. We just knew that he was having headaches and he started deteriorating. He ended up in a catatonic stage. So from a kid that could play soccer, basketball, jiu-jitsu, ended up in more of a catatonic stage that we had to basically bathe and feed him and change his diapers.
From 10 years old?
16.
16, okay.
Years old. 10 years old, we found out he had a genetic disorder. And then later, and that's when I already pulled him out of the DOE system. So later we found out, we did his regular checkup, and at 16, he had the vaccination and he ended up in a catatonic stage within 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
So he slowly deteriorated in front of my heart.
How difficult for a mom. I can only imagine. I can only empathize, Mom. That must have been terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, we didn't know what was going on. The pediatrician told me what she suspected. And the more we investigated and went to the mainland and did testing, we found out that because of his genetic disorder, he could, his antibodies could not fight off the vaccination. So his immune system was low. And
Oh.
we didn't know that at that time. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So basically, the antibodies took over and ravaged his system because the vaccine didn't help. Yeah, that's golly. So from there, you've got he's a changed person. Now you have a different person that you're caring for.
Right, at 16, at a later time of his life. And so I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought I had him ready for life, you know,
right?
Because he was doing pre-algebra. We had him in a private school, so so I just thought that everything was fine. Sorry, my granddaughter is singing in the background.
Well, singing is
Hopefully
important.
you can mute it.
Going. It keeps the joy going.
So what happened was when he was 16, I was basically trying to figure out what can I do for my child, and how can I give him quality of life now, because he was the way he were, you know. His violent behaviors was the worst part, because later I found out that there's a lot of providers out there in the state of Hawaii. It's just that not everyone is willing.
When you found out at 16, you've a big change, and now you want to
look at
you thought everything
what's going to happen after.
Yeah, your whole world turned upside down, basically.
Right. Yeah, my whole world did turn upside down. Our whole life, our family just completely changed in handling situations and doing things, you know. So at 16, I was working with the IEP team trying to figure out, okay, what happens now? You know, I know he has to 21 years old, but then how can I get him to a stage by the time he's 21 to be like how he was before? But it wasn't going to happen. You know, at that time I was in denial. Later, by the time he was 18, I realized, okay, I think it's going to be mainly up to me to try to figure it out.
Right.
So that's what I had to do, is I had to basically figure it out. And when the IEP team told me that I have those three choices of putting him in a mental institution, giving him up to the state, or quitting work and handling him myself, because there is no providers that was willing to take him, because you have DD services, disability division services, when you age out of the Department of Education, that a lot of parents don't realize they can get. And that will give you community-based environment, so you can go out, you can take your child can go out with workers and go shopping, learn how to cross the street, do all that kind of stuff that should help him in life later.
Right.
And you make the plan for your child. So I had no plan, because I didn't know what to do. And the more I started looking around, I realized there's really no providers, because the providers basically get the same amount of money if they have an easy child, a young adult, or a hard one.
So well, yeah. And then if it's a group home usually, right, where there's several people there sometimes.
Well, it's called ADH, so you can have ADH programs. So it's like a facility that is like a daycare. Sorry, it's like a daycare.
Okay.
You know?
Oh, ADH, adult day health care.
Adult daycare program. So the parent can work. The parent can do things differently. So I am so sorry.
That's okay.
That's my life. You know, my phone rings, my grandchild grows crazy, and I'm trying to do other things in between.
Well, you're doing really well. Other people would have jumped out a window by now. You're doing just fine.
Almost there. But what I ended up doing is I ended up collaborating with an organization. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna start a nonprofit. And
well, let's step back a second. So
yes,
someone just, I know sometimes necessity requires us to do something different, you know, the necessity of your child and making sure that he had that support system. But what was your before that? What experiences you had in the workplace, and that you were working beforehand?
Yes, I was working as a hairdresser, believe it or not. And when I was doing hair, I was basically dealing with my child and the IEP, and I'm on the computer the whole time. So I was doing hair and doing advocacy before I even started a nonprofit. And I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Mm-hmm. You were already
later,
involved networking, creating a network of resources.
Right, because I needed to figure out how to network with other people. If other parents are going through the same thing that I'm going through, how did they even survive but you know, no one had answers.
Right.
So I was a hairdresser. I worked as a hairdresser for 37 years.
Oh my goodness.
And my heart started changing, because then I started realizing there's a group of young adults and even children that is not getting the services, and people the providers providing services for these kids, and a lot of these kids are being sent off to the mainland.
For that have homes that provide those type of services.
Right.
I see.
So that is when I decided, okay, I need to start my nonprofit.
Okay.
For special needs children.
Nana.
So that's okay. Leave it alone. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Leave it alone. Kiki, leave it alone. Kiko. That is okay. Go out of the bathroom. Go in your toy room. Kiko 5. Abuela is busy. Thank you.
Awesome. So after 37 years, you're working, but as you're working, like you said, you were actively involved with the schools. So you learned a lot there, that IEP process, and then also trying to advocate and develop those networks. And then you felt there was a time that still there was no one that could bring all these resources together. But you were standing in the middle of it, seeing all this, going like, okay, there's a need here. And if I stand up this organization, that I might be able to fill this gap somehow.
Right. Right. And that's what it was. It's a gap in our community that there's the higher functioning kids that is not getting services. And then you have the ones with the violent behaviors, any type of behaviors are not getting services.
Okay.
So
tell us about as you what was your first steps of how, you've never started a nonprofit before. So what was your steps? How did you decide that, or is there anyone out there that helped you?
You can hear my baby crying. Hold on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Computer, you need to stop. Okay. Sorry. So God gave me all these things going on.
That's okay. I have to tell you, I have my wife and I, we have 6 kids.
Okay, so you know what I have to go through.
You don't have to explain a thing right now.
She's going through a different behavior challenge. That's why my son sent her to me, because she got sent home from school the past 2 days.
So you're the heavy, huh? You're the put some boundaries. The hammer.
The
The
hammer,
hammer.
yes. Yes. I mean, I don't do anything to hurt her or
Oh
anything, but
yeah.
I lay down the law.
Yeah, you have to have clear boundaries. And I imagine if we take some time, and explore just the challenges, as I mean, we'll talk about how you've built this this wonderful foundation, but just the challenges from moment to moment, as a mother or as a parent or as a caregiver for someone like this. I mean, you must have the patience of Job. What
No.
has kept you going through all of that, to sort of put it in perspective? Have there been times when you thought, gosh, I don't know if I can do this?
It's every day that I think that. So my main morning is because now my son has 24-hour services. So it took me 11 years to get 24-hour services. But and why I say 11 years is because he really didn't need workers at 16 years old until all this happened.
Sure.
And the longer it became, the more my husband started looking at it like, we're getting older. K.E.L.I.I is getting older. He's 28 now. And is this how our life is going to be?
Right.
That's what my husband was questioning. So I had to basically step back and look at things and say, okay, I need to push for 24-hour services because I don't want my husband to lose it.
Well, you know what? There's a reality there. No, there's you want to say that everyone wants to be gracious and magnanimous and be able to say, I love my son, and therefore, I can do this forever. But there's a reality with being a caregiver. The same thing with people taking care of their aging parents. There's I love you, I want to take care of you, but I don't have the resources. Then I won't have a life if I do this. And so there's a real challenge there where you have to. Sometimes people question their, whether. Anyway, it's a challenge that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but certainly when you're there, it takes a lot of bravery, I think, to make those choices.
When K.E.L.I.I changed, our whole life changed, and that means the way people treated us changed. So you don't get invited to parties, you don't get invited to things. People try to stay away from you, so your house basically becomes your prison.
So you become socially isolated too.
Yes. So with I mentioned this on one of my Facebook posts, my Facebook Live one time. I said, people are so frustrated with COVID, right? That they're isolated and everything. But that's been my life for 11 years.
Right. No going out.
My life.
Right. You've had to always consider.
I had to deal with that. And now people can feel it and see what we have to go through. And it's not only kids with violent behaviors, it's children that act out in general with sensory disorder. Parents have a hard time going to the store. They have a hard time going to parties because people will stare. And they would look, or they would judge you, or say, oh, your child is bad, they need spanking, you don't give them discipline. And you're looking at them, and it doesn't matter how much you talk to them, people, and explain to them about your child that has a disability. It doesn't matter because society looks at our children differently. And that really changed my husband and my perspective on what needs to be done with these young adults, because we realize that sometimes even having him out in the community is scary because you don't know if you're going to get a call from the police. Because there was quite a few times that we got calls that the police had to come because my son was having a behavior, and people will call because they don't understand what's going on.
They don't know how to de-escalate. People always are ready for a fight, it feels like, instead of trying to, let's bring it all down and let's calm it down a little bit, or how to recognize that someone's suffering in that way, and that they need support rather than sort of being yelled at.
Yes, or even the security guards at the mall. same thing, the way that they approach. So a lot of people like the police department, fire department, security, I always say that they should get trained
Mm-hmm.
in how to handle the autistic young adults and kids, because sometimes the way they approach makes it worse. So
right, they can escalate a situation, make it worse, instead of creating a pathway out. All of a sudden, then you go to a place of no return, and then you can't bring it down without a major event. Right.
Yes. So I mean, when we were going through that transitional stage, we went through a lot of changes in our life, and I thought to my husband, I don't know what to do, because there's nothing out there for us, and no one is there to teach us what to do.
Right.
So I have a lot of faith, and I just prayed, and I just prayed and I told the Lord, you need to guide me, and you need to show me exactly what I need to do. So don't mind.
I don't, you know what, a faithful, I know that the Lord hears faithful prayers. And so I'm sure that, and that's the rest of I'm sure as the answers started coming, I imagine.
Yes. And from when people were talking to me and said, oh, things happen for reasons, I used to be angry. And now I sit there and I understand, things do happen for reasons. It made me be a more positive and a role model and advocate for others out there, because my child goes through so much different scenarios throughout his life that while we're going through it, I can help others go through it too. And I post a lot of things on my Facebook page just to teach. And I always say, I'm not trying to have pity. I don't want that. But I want to educate society on what can happen or what does happen with these type of kids. And I want other parents out there to know that they're not alone.
Right.
So when I started my nonprofit, I always tell the parents and like the representatives and the senators that I do work with that I'm a parent first.
Right.
And a nonprofit second.
Okay.
So I'm going to work with my heart first.
Right.
And then figure out how can we change things? How can we create? I'm not going to be those parents that complain and grumble about how things are never going our way. I'm going to try to figure out, okay, if this is happening, then we need to try to create a program, because Hawaii is behind in so much with our children, with housing, with transition, with just having them out in society. Hawaii is very, very behind. So I link and network with people on the mainland that have that deal with different services. And I try to mimic whatever they have.
I see.
And bring it here to Hawaii.
Okay. And now you sort of passed over it, but it sounds like coming from a hairdresser and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, the senators that I deal with. That's kind of that's a little bit of a transition for someone. Did you ever see yourself in this kind of role? A meeting.
No, I never seen myself in this kind of role. When I first was a hairdresser and I got invited from a doctor to come and have a meeting because she wanted to talk to me, and she was coming from California. My husband's like, why does she want to talk to you? You're just a hairdresser. So I went into that meeting thinking, why do you want to talk to me? I'm just a hairdresser. But she wanted to pick my brain and figure out what we're going through, how she can help, what we can do, that kind of stuff. Later on, I realized that I was more of an advocate but it took me years to figure it out because so many people was calling and asking me to help them,
Right.
that I never thought that I was like an advocate. I just thought that I was just experienced in what was going on with my son. Right. And I can at least give an insight of how to change things or how to manage. So 3 years ago, I met up with a person that was having problems with receiving DD services.
Okay.
Got denied 4 times. Her child went into Queen's Hospital 4 times. Nobody knew what to do. So one of the senators gave her my number. Don't ask me how he even got it, because I never dealt with the state capitol at that time.
Right.
And when she called me, she said, "Oh, I called this senator because I didn't know what to do. And he responded to me and gave me your number." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So
surprise.
I was surprised, like a senator knew my number. How did he even get it? But I didn't even ask questions.
Right.
I just started helping her. And through the help, that's when I found out that a lot of these kids get sent off to the mainland if they're too much, if they don't have a facility to go to.
Sure. And Hawaii still pays for that those service?
I heard that the Department of Education does. Okay. And I heard some of the DD services pay for it too.
Okay.
So I was surprised to hear that because I never heard that before. And that's when I said, okay, if a senator gave my number, let's go to the state capitol. So we started walking the state capitol, and what I decided to do is tell my son's story and have a picture of him. And I gave all these flyers to the senators. And I said, I just wanted to open up your eyes on what is going on. And then because I was posting what I was doing, some parents called me and said, "Can I go with you?" So after a while, I started having like 10, 15 parents doing the same thing, posting their child's picture and their story and walking with me to the state capitol. And all the senators and representatives was telling me, "Do you have a bill?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't understand. Well, do we have a bill? That's the only time you would talk to me, if we have a bill. What is a bill? I don't get it." So I did talk to Mizuno, Representative Mizuno, and he sat down and he explained to us about what a bill is. And if we want something to change, then make it law.
Right.
And that didn't really dawn on me before. I was like, oh, a light bulb came on. Okay. What we didn't realize is that bill was going to pass the Senate. And it went really far. And I was like surprised because I didn't even know the language that we were having.
Sure.
Mizuno helped us, and we were just clueless, but because we made our presence, so much people was attending the hearings because they wanted so much caregivers, providers was attending the hearing, and they were saying, "Oh, yeah, we come to this hearing because we heard that parents are coming," and they didn't realize I was that parent, approaching and just explaining, "Okay, you have these services for our special needs children to age out of the Department of Education, but these things are not happening to help us go through the transition. There's no transitional program to link like the Department of Education and DOH together to make it easy. And no one is teaching us parents what to do, how to get we should have guardianship over our children. We should have, especially if your child needs it, like my son needs guardianship. You should have guardianship over your child by 18 years old, because if your child is 18 and they have an IEP meeting at school, you might not be able to attend.
I've heard that. Yeah, because you don't have
a
based on
guardianship.
what's
Because they are
Yeah,
adults.
it's private information now. It's their private education information, so you can't have any of it if you're not a guardian. That's crazy.
Right. And it's like, my child may be 18, but his IQ is 2.
Uh-huh.
And you told me his IQ is at a 2-year-old, but he's 18, but I cannot attend. Yeah. So it's just a lot of politics,
Right.
and the more we started telling our representatives and senators what was going on, the more they were calling me up and saying, hey, what about this, and this? And, so before COVID, we had so much going on.
So it sounds like you had started making really some tracks here.
A lot of strides and
yeah.
meeting people, and we were making strides on having a better Department of Education, and Department of Health. But once COVID hit, it just went backwards.
Well, tell us about that. How that, I mean, what was your, as a foundation, not for profit, you can write for grants and you can, or there's donations. What was your major source of keeping you the foundation going for you?
Well, I did a lot of private. We had a lot of grants from private agencies, and the year that COVID started, I would say 3 months before that, we had a big grant, the biggest grant we had from Campbell Estate. And I was so excited because it made me really think that, okay, I can do if there's no transitional program, I'm going to create one. And now I can create it with that money. But once COVID hit, I was very limited in having people over, meeting parents.
Yeah, so hard.
Yeah, and even we used to have this thing called parent seminar. It was a seminar that I would bring guest speakers to educate us parents on what to do when you age out and how to do it. And I would have attorneys, and I would have someone from the DD Council to come down. Nice. And parents loved it. And I would have behavior specialists or even skills trainers come, and we would pay them to watch the kids while the parents are going through their the seminar.
Right. Which is always a tough thing for parents to do too, because they can never get out because they don't have anyone to watch the kids too.
Right. So I had up to 150 parents that used to attend our seminars all the time. Wow. So it was called Empowering Parents Seminar. And I even had events that it was building family social. So I wanted the families to socialize not only with each other, but get to know their kid too. And I would close the Tiki Fun Center. That was they closed down since of COVID, but it was called Tiki Fun Center. And they would have laser tag, miniature golf, and just a lot of games, but it was in an enclosed area. Right. And parents loved it because they could laugh. I mean, you've seen parents laughing with their kid, and majority of the time you're not laughing with your child. You're stressed out because you can't even deal with anything. But these parents would come there relaxed,
Right.
And
so
once
now with COVID put a hard stop to that, and that's been have you been able to maybe meet in small groups or through Zoom? But I know everyone wants to get back together socially and be able to be able to work through, again, get back to some sense of community that you had before COVID.
Well, since COVID hit, at first I was a little depressed and sad, because everything stopped. But my faith had to come in again, and I had to really meditate on what needs to be done. And what I found out is the transitional program was on my heart more than anything. So my husband and I decided to renovate our home. So if you see my wall,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
so my home is more like a sensory home. I'll show you.
Uh-huh.
See, so I got this wavy wall, the tile
Oh,
wall.
how cool.
I have that wall, and then
Is that corkboard? That wall over there is like a corkboard type?
yes.
Okay.
So it's the floor laminate.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's sensory, they can feel it, and okay.
Right. So this is floor laminate, so they can
Okay.
feel it. And then I have lights.
Oh my goodness. How fun is that?
Yeah,
I want
sensory
to play with it.
lights. Yeah. And then we have tile wall, but it's
Okay.
wavy.
Oh, okay. So they can, yeah.
You see the waves?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's got, yeah, you can touch it and it's got tactile.
Right.
There's your order board there. Yeah.
Then I have butterflies all over
Uh-huh.
my wall, but on every wall, I have saying. So this one is saying life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance with the rain.
Uh-huh.
So, this is yeah, right here is a tree that has butterflies that's flying. But if you notice, the butterflies is like mirror.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like the butterflies are our autistic kids.
Uh-huh.
And if you notice, well, I don't know if you can see, but I have colorful butterflies.
Okay, I can see
flying in between.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Yeah, so our family, this is our family.
Uh-huh.
Our family is the tree. The wind is blowing and we're going crazy. And our kids are being sent off.
Uh-huh.
But the ones that is blank is our
Uh-huh.
children with autism. And
Okay.
then you have the colorful ones that is the kids that is normal.
Right.
So I have it throughout the house and I explain, and everything has passage. So when parents come here, they're looking around the house and they're reading everything and it's touching their heart at the same time.
So now you've made your home a gathering place, a place of learning for that. Okay.
Yeah, we renovated our whole house and our kitchen. I mean, it's messy right now, but I have like my kitchen, I broke down. So we have an area so we can teach them how to cook.
Yeah.
We're hoping later to do housing for some kids. And we want to make my home more of an example of what needs to be done for our children.
Sure.
Well,
you are all in. It appears that you are all in on this.
Yes, and with COVID, it made me really focus and I renovated the whole house, but we couldn't do our extension because the wood prices.
Right.
So it made me take a step back again on what to do, how to do it. And this is the second year of COVID. So it's just really hard trying to figure out and trying to get money and grants on keep on going. So I have parents calling me up every single day, or we have on Facebook, we have that messenger. I have like 68 parents on that messenger.
Sure.
And every day, even if we cannot physically talk to each other, we just put messages when they're going through any type of problem.
Right.
We'll just put it on the messenger and parents will respond. So it's very active.
Well, that's a great resource that you've built as a community. And but so are they hopeful that, well, if there's someone that needs to, a bottom line is, because of COVID, it's been challenging to sort of raise the sort of funds that you used to be able to do. So if someone wants to give right now and is excited about what you're doing as a foundation, and and obviously, from talking to you, we know that you're serious about it. If you want to donate, how do they go about doing that?
They can go on the website, or they can go on Team K.E.L.I.I, or I have it K.E.L.I. Education Living Independent Institute on Facebook, and they can get in touch with me that way. We have a PayPal account.
That's on and the email address for your for your foundation site is on K. Is it? Can you say
K.E.L.I.I
it?
Foundation.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
it's
Okay, go ahead.
www.K.E.L.I.I Foundation.org.
Org. Okay. Yeah, and it shows on there how to collaborative partners and different programs that you can,
Right.
and how to contact you and different things. So
Yes.
so
I do have a lot of collaborating partners. I have and my collaborating partners is more like psychiatrists and psychologists. And I have Sprout Therapy, who does therapy for speech, language, food, OTPT. And then I have a naturopathic doctor that is part of us too. So what we're hoping later is we can build like a one-stop shop for the parents, because I
Right.
know with me, it takes me hours to get my child to any doctors, and then to have to go to two in one day is the whole day.
Yeah.
But if you have everything in one center, it will be so much easier.
Or if you have something, or there's some programs where it's really the housing is trying to find the hardest thing. Is what's nice about COVID is everyone learned that we can do telehealth pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's nice too, is you can bring all those practitioners, into whichever home that person is in, potentially, if you're networked well enough.
Yeah. Telehealth for us does not work.
Okay.
Because then you have your autistic kid or your other kids like going kind of bonkers in the background, like my grandchild is doing right now. And you're trying to focus on telehealth and watch them the same time that they're not going to get hurt or fight or Yeah, so parents said telehealth is not even working. So what we usually do, well, we already had one event, but the governor decided, okay, we're only going to have 25 for outdoors, right? So I just kept it at the beach, and I said, everyone can go to the beach. Let's go to the beach and let's do our event there.
Right. Yeah, that
That's
makes
what
sense.
we did. I had shave ice, popcorn. I had some games, and we usually do stations so the kids socialize and the parents socialize, so we had that event 2 months ago. But there's so much that I want to do, but I feel limited at this time.
So take us, that's why we want to help us see the vision a little bit. Next to 2 to 5 years, what would you like to see? And maybe that would help folks as they're listening in to see, how that they can contribute.
What we would like to see and what we're really focused on is housing. We are really focused on housing, and in our housing program, we want to build a place for a one-stop shop.
Okay.
In that housing. So then parents can have, parents like me that is getting older and your child is getting older, you wonder what's going to happen to my child when I die. Then you at least feel like, okay, my child is taken care of. And then you have all those services right there in the facility area,
Right.
So
but it's
that is our focus.
Hard to find reasonable cost house, particularly in Hawaii. And that's the biggest thing. Maybe that's the next bill you need to try and get moving there, because really the housing issue is, I think for a lot of services that are needed out there, housing is just to cover a roof over your head, even if it's a room or a shared room. It's difficult to find, and then finding the caregivers that would be able to support someone who may be aggressive at times. It's certainly challenging. But with people like you in the background pushing and not giving up, I feel like you're sort of relentless. Like if you hear an answer you don't quite like, you kind of go like next, and then move right past that.
I tell them, wait, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you because I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
So that's what's happening now. Is my son just received 24-hour services in the past. This is 3 months already. So it's been 3 months since we had 24-hour services. So we're figuring out how to have 24-hour services in a home with a parent there, how it can be. But, a lot of times the parents don't have privacy.
Right.
Because you have people constantly
you have
walking in your house.
All those other caregivers and providers. You're just another provider. It feels like you're one of the team
Right.
supporting your son rather
Mhm.
than the premier team member. I guess they often, it feels like the caregivers or the people that work in this kind of field are very supportive. How has it been for you with the folks that the kind of caregivers that you're getting and the type of folks that that do this kind of work? What is your assessment of them and their hearts?
So since COVID, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the providers are losing workers.
Mm-hmm.
They're losing workers, or they can't provide the services. So with DD, Developmental Disability Division,
Uh-huh.
they have another budget for a parent to find workers on their own, and
Uh-huh.
then they can pay the workers.
Okay.
So it's called consumer direct hours. That is what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm relying on an agency only for maybe not even 3 days,
Uh-huh.
4 days. And but my CD workers do majority of the work. So I ended up having some workers that was in an agency that followed me, and
Right.
then they talked to their friends. So now I have 10 workers under me. The thing is, I have to make sure I have the budget, so I'm the boss.
Right. Yeah, so you got your
And I have to juggle
they're
the hours. I have to do
so they're not
everything.
volunteers. They're paid.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a
So,
lot of work. That's added work, the financial
right,
part.
right. So what I do is I even have a board for who works when.
Okay.
So I am the boss. So
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's hard. Not all parents can do it.
Right.
But right now, during this COVID, it seems like this is the only option, because you can have services. You can have 8 hours, 9 hour services, but a provider cannot provide, then you have nothing.
Right. So you had to create all of those resources on your own, huh?
Right.
Wow. That's a lot of work. But
Yes.
because of that, now you're like one of the few people in Hawaii that have that experience and know what it is. So now you become an even more valuable resource, I guess, for the community,
Right.
because you've kind of, you're breaking down these pathways that no one's gone down before. And now you come back and say, hey guys, let's go this way, because look what I found
Right.
over here. Well,
Yes.
I guess the
Yes.
necessity is the mother of invention. So, did you ever see that when you were little, or again, like when you were cutting hair, that all of a sudden this other part of yourself would be coming out and displaying itself?
No. And I had to quit work 11
Uh-huh.
years ago, right? And focus on my son and focus on all of this. And now my son is more settled and my grandchildren are in school. I'm like, okay, what do I do with myself? I don't feel productive because my we're limited on what we can do with COVID. So I decided to work 1 day a week on Sundays. I started, Kiki, I started this past Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And to tell you the truth, I went back to work and my heart is not in it.
It's hard.
Even if I was doing it for 37 years, I get more joy in helping others, because I feel like all the trials that I have to go through, it's for a reason.
Right.
And helping someone else makes me smile, because at least you know, okay, Lord, I understand what you're telling me to do.
Well, not that giving haircuts isn't important, but this feels like very personal, meaningful, and sort of even at a deep spiritual level, that this is sort of life satisfying type things where you're really found your meaning and you're exercising.
Yes.
Well, congratulations. I think a lot of people out there are still trying to find that. And you're a great example, I think, for all of us. And, hats off to you for your courageous, facing of this challenging, episode that you didn't expect in your life, and faced it with faith, and pretty amazing person, and great outcomes. And we'd love to hear more as things go. And we want to also send everybody to the K.E.L.I.I Foundation.org, www.K.E.L.I.I
Yes.
Foundation.org, and get over there and get some help here, because I think there's going to be, from the sounds of it, there's going to be a lot more good things coming out of the work that you do, and we want to witness it and be a part of it if we can.
Yes, thank you so much.
You bet. Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell the folks as we're kind of rounding out for our Hawaii Boss visit here?
Well, usually I have a lot of events. I'm still working on a few events. I'm thinking about doing a Christmas event because yeah, I have some grant money that I need to use. So
Right.
yeah, I'm still working on it, but in trying to figure it out. Plus, it's a daily thing. You need to listen to the radio, the news, what's happening,
Right.
and the numbers, because parents get scared because not all our children can be vaccinated. My son personally cannot.
Right.
Because of what happened already to him.
Right.
So, there is a lot of children out there that cannot get vaccinated. So the parents are really scared to bring them out.
Right. Well, hopefully we have some, like you say, day to day. Hopefully we hear some good news, and this
yes,
begins to pass into our history, and people will begin to come out and
right.
And thank you so much for coming on. And I think there's so much for a lot of us to learn, and going to your website is helpful, and just to have a little bit more understanding for those folks who have special needs. I think that's something, if all of us could be a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little more kind for, we can always pray for that and hope that comes
Right.
true. But yeah, wonderful example.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
What happened to my son really opened up my eyes, because my son was higher functioning. I didn't understand what other people go through. And then once my son became this way, it really opened up my eyes to so much that needs to be done, and if people want to go onto my page, I'm very open, and I'm always saying what's going on, what happens, things that I have to go through with my child, if it's good or bad, so they can go on my Facebook page too. That's called K.E.L.I.I Haole, K.E.L.I.I Haole, Haole, or they can go on the Keiki Education Living Independent Institute Facebook. And that might be the best way for them to see the things that we are doing and what I do.
On a day-to-day basis.
And it's not only me. I have people in the background that does help. I have the doctors, Dr. K.E.L.I.I, Michael K.E.L.I.I, who is a psychologist that been part of us from the beginning, and he is our clinical director and our VP. So he does a lot too in the background.
Sure.
I'm more of the voice of K.E.L.I.I.
Right. Well, again, you've assembled an amazing thing here, and I think there's a bright future, certainly a need, and it sounds like you're creating some great resources for those in Hawaii that need it. While it's maybe a smaller group, it's such a big need that it really does have to be addressed. And so thank you for your bravery and your, I would say, determination. And I think you're a great example to all of us. And
thank you so much.
Yes. Until next time, because we do definitely want to hear everything that's going on. But Melodee, until next time, best of luck to you. And hopefully you and your husband are getting out on some dates now.
Can't go on any dates right now.
Not yet. Well, hopefully soon. Hopefully, because that's important to remember. That's right. Mom, don't forget mom and dad. Don't forget mom and dad's relationship, right? Yes,
that's number one.
Yeah.
The divorce rate is very high.
That's right. Challenging. So anyway, thank you again.
Yes, and thank you.
Yeah. Until next time, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you.
Bye, Melodee.
Bye.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.